All right, today, episode 2 of our series dealing with our Airbnb slash short-term rentals. Today, we're talking about what are you looking for when you're looking for a short-term rental. If you're looking to purchase and turn into a short-term rental, what are you looking for? Because it's a completely different situation than just looking for a house to live in. This is Steve, Malone Realty Group EXP in Atlanta. As you may have seen in episode 1 if you saw it, we were getting ready to purchase our first short-term rental. We have now purchased it as of earlier this week. So late July of 2022, my wife and I purchased a vacation home, kind of getaway up in the North Georgia area. So that being said, wanted to go over what it was that we were looking for in looking for this property, because again, it's a little different. We looked for this property for about a month and a half to 2 months. We looked at lots of places. We looked we looked along the coast, thinking about Destin because I love Destin. And I'll do a little side about that in just a second. But I love Destin. We love the beach. There were a couple spots on the Atlantic side that we looked at, but we weren't too thrilled with because we like the Destin area. We know it. Also, we know North Georgia. We've been here forever. We're closer to the Helen area than we were necessarily to the LJ Jasper area, which is where we ended up. That being said, we know North Georgia. So one of the things I'll say is wherever you do want to invest, know the area, or you need to get up on that area quick to know what's going on. Okay, we decided that instead of being down near the beach, we wanted to be closer to home for a couple of reasons. 3 reasons. Number one, I'm a realtor, so I was able to use some of my commission towards closing costs. Number 2, it's closer. This is our first Airbnb. Everything should be done remote. You shouldn't have to go out there. But if the poop hits the fan and I got to get out there to do something, we want something that's close. And Destin is like 6 hours away from us, so as nice as it would be to go down to Destin, I'd really rather be here. Number 3, if I'm looking for a place in Destin, more than likely it's going to have an HOA. That's going to ramp up our costs. Where we are right now doesn't have an HOA, so costs are coming down. And that's my aside that I want to throw out there. Before we talk about, there's 4 things you want to look for in a property. But before we get into that, the first thing I want to say is keep in mind this is an investment. This is creating an asset. We talked about this in the first episode, thinking like Robert Kiyosaki would. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We want to create assets, things that pay us. Okay, we love Destin. It makes sense to get an asset here that makes money here, better than it could potentially make money down there at the price range we were looking at, than to buy down there. Just get one here, and then money that we make off it, we can use that to go on vacation down to Destin. So you can do it that way too. So we had to get out of the mindset of, we want to be in Destin, we want to have a piece of Destin. That was my thing. At the beginning of the year, I said to myself, I want to have a piece of Destin. We've always loved it down there. I want to have a piece of the action down there. We will in time. But right now, the price range we were looking at, early in the game, it just made more sense from a cash flow perspective to be up here than have to be down there, not quite in the place we want to be in and paying too much in HOA fees. Well, I got the place that I wanted up here, don't have to pay HOA fees, better cash flow, all that stuff. So keep that in mind. If you want to be somewhere, that's one thing, but keep in mind that what you're doing is a business transaction. You're setting this up as a business transaction. And you really have to look at the numbers, what makes the most sense, okay? So that's going to go into what we're about to talk about right now. So looking for a house, top 4 things that you're looking for in a house when you're looking for a short-term rental, right? Number 1, you are looking for a good house. I mean, it is real estate. Part of the reason why you want to pick it up is it's going to go up in value over time. So you don't want a dump on the side of the road unless you have the money to fix it up and make it affordable and it works within the confines of the thing that you're doing, okay? You want a house that's nice area, all that stuff that we normally look for in a home, because part of what we're doing with this investment is over time, the investment's going to go up in value. So I want to be sure it's in a place where it's going to go up in value, it's a house that's going to go up in value, all those things. So keep that in mind. This is where kind of like the real estate thing goes. Like, we've got to think good bones, good whatever. So number 1, you want a good house, just like any other house you buy. Not rocket science, right? Number 2, this is where it gets different. And I saw a YouTube video talked about this, and this one got me because it warned real estate people, myself being one of them, that this can't be a 100% real estate thing. This is a hospitality thing. Okay, we're in the hospitality business as a short-term rental. Because if we're not in the hospitality business, we don't have people renting it, we're covering the mortgage, and we're going to hold it for a long time before it actually makes us money. Okay, so we need to be in the hospitality business. So number two, you want to be sure that it's in a place that's going to rent. Okay, my neighborhood that I live in right now is like 180 house, 200 house neighborhood, just in Gwinnett County. Nothing too terribly special about it. It's just a neighborhood. Love it here. I would never rent a house in here for 3 days because it just doesn't make sense to me because it's not really near like anything. It's just a house in a neighborhood. Maybe that happens in some places or whatever, but what you want to do is you want to look at a spot that when people come to town, are they going to want to rent there? Like we went for a place in Talking Rock. It is right near Jasper, right near Ellijay, right near Blue Ridge, right near Amicalola Falls, Gibbs Gardens, Carter's Lake is right there. There are a whole bunch of things that are right there. There's hiking trails, there's wineries. It's such a cool place up there. People who go to North Georgia, that's a good spot for them to go and rent because everything's right there. The way you know that, though, is we can't just kind of look and say, oh, I think that, da, da, da. You can talk yourself into a lot of stuff. Look at the data. There's a website called airdna.co. I'll put it in the description below. airdna.co. Okay? This website you can go to and you can see the history for Airbnbs and VRBOs that are in a certain area. You can pay for upgraded data. If you're really looking at a spot, I would highly suggest 1 month of the upgraded data to really get a good backlog of what's going on. But you'll get an idea of how many Airbnbs or VRBOs are in a certain place. You can look at them and see how booked they are going forward, what their prices are, whatever, things like that. So that way you're not just trying to figure it out. You're not thinking to yourself, oh, I think this would be a cool place to have a rental. You don't want to build a rental empire. You want to go to a place that's going to support your rental. So you want to go to a place where people actually rent and have a kicking little place there. Plug into what's already cooking, right? You don't want to go like on top of the mountain where there's no Airbnb, VRBOs and saying, I'm going to be the first one up here. Could it happen? Yes. But you're putting yourself in a position where if that doesn't happen, you're just going to be carrying a mortgage, an extra mortgage, okay? Go to a spot where people are renting. Use the airdna.co to go in and review what those people are doing, all right? So number three, is this going to make sense financially? Is there margin there, okay? You've got to think to yourself, if it costs me, with the mortgage, with the electricity, with the water, whatever, if it costs me $30,000 to carry the house, in theory, right? I'm just throwing the number out there. And when you look at the past rent over the last 12 months, the past rent over the last 12 months is $25,000, $30,000. That's right there. That's pretty close. You don't want to have a house that is very close on margin. You want a wide margin. So even if it's 35 and you're at 30, you got to think to yourself, an extra $5,000 can happen like that. If you need a new roof, if you got to throw a new AC in, if something crazy happens, you got to take down a couple of trees, put in a new hot tub, whatever. I mean, that $5,000 can come quick. You may have a super hot summer. Somebody leaves the air conditioning on like 30 degrees, and all of a sudden you got like a $5,000 electric bill, whatever. Stuff happens. So $5,000 on $30,000 is probably not big enough margin. You want a spot that has a wide margin where you look back and say, oh, this house makes over $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 in revenue every year, like gross revenue. That's margin. So even if that 30 turns into 35 or 40, you still have some wiggle room there. There's still some cushion, and you still get a little bit of money every month, because that's what we want. We want a little cash flow and the home to appreciate and have the bills paid, like all that stuff. That's what you want. So when you look at it, do yourself that favor. The numbers, try not to make them even. Because, I mean, the old saying is, if you could have a house, rent it out, and everything's paid for, and you only make $1 a month off it, in theory, that works, right? It doesn't work, though, because If you only have $1 a month coming in from a property, you're setting yourself for a big, gigantic headache. Okay, be sure you have margin. Okay, number 4, is there a backup plan? So that's where we are too. What if the Airbnb thing just completely fizzles out? What if VRBO fizzles out? What if we can't rent it as a short-term rental? If we did a long-term rental, what could we get for it? In that area, things like that. You got to look at, because, we just entered a recession here in the United States. It's been kind of a soft economy for a while. Gas prices are crazy. It's kind of why we thought North Georgia made sense, because of gas prices being crazy. A lot of local people may want to come up into the mountains instead of driving down to Florida. So there's all kinds of things going on in the economy. You never know what's going to happen 1 month from now, 2 months from now. So if the short-term rental thing fades away, can we rent it out as a long-term rental? Can we just have it as a second house? Whatever. We have a game plan for that. So those are the 4 things that we thought about when we were looking at this house. Is it a strong house or a good house? From what we saw, yes, it's an older house. It's about a 70-year-old house, but everything on the inside has been redone. Granite countertops, upgraded, AC unit, brand new water heater. We just had the septic tank pumped. It's a brand new septic tank as of a couple years ago. We got a new hot tub. All these things, it makes sense as a piece of property. It's going to go up in value because that area is blown up in value. So number 1, going up in value. Number 2, we looked at all the Airbnbs and VRBOs. This one, people are going to this area. We checked it. We did the backlogs. We looked at their books. They gave us their rental history. It all made sense. Number 3, this one has margin. Okay, we're not making $1 a month. We're making a decent amount per month. So even if we're wrong, 1 month or 2 months, we still have some cash flow the rest of the time where we're going to be cash flowing this and having some extra. We're going to just pay down the note. Every dollar is going to go towards the note to try and pay this down. And finally, there is a backup plan, because if the short-term rental goes away, we can always rent it long-term. Okay, so that's what we looked at. And again, it took us a month and a half to 2 months to look at it. You got to think, buying a 1-bedroom house, 2-bedroom house, 3-bedroom house. Well, there's so many things to look at. We love talking about it, so if you want to talk about it, give me a call, 470-233-4409, and say, thinking about it, this and that, whatever. I'll give you a final story, and then we'll call it a day. I got a buddy who I was talking to last week. He was telling me he was in Chicago on business, and he thought to himself, he loved walking down by the river. He'd love to have a little apartment to rent out here. That way he could stay here when he comes here, and then he could, put on Airbnb when he's not here, this and that, I think that'd be great. So I gave him all that list of, that sounds great. Just like we went to Destin, we'd love to have rental here. Does it make sense? Are people renting there? Are the rules in the cities there allowing for rentals? That's another thing you have to look at, because you may look in downtown Atlanta, there's not a lot of Airbnbs. Atlanta and Fulton County is cracking down on the Airbnbs, okay? Or Airbnb, or should say Atlanta, not necessarily Fulton County, but Atlanta is. They're cracking down on Airbnbs that you can only have 1 or 2. And you have to be, there's certain hoops you got to jump through. Some of the other bigger cities are doing that too, and I'm sure Chicago might be one of those cities. So you have to look for that. Do people, if they are allowed, do people rent there? How much do they get? There's all of that stuff. It might make more financial sense to have a rental close to home that's paying you that spread that makes more money. And then if you need to go to Chicago, you've got that money from that asset to help you pay to go to Chicago. That might make more financial sense. Now, some people just want to have the place in Chicago or want to have the place in Destin, and good for you. That's how we were thinking. That's how we are thinking in the future. We want to wait till we have the financial swing to really make something happen in Destin, to really get a property that makes sense. Right now, we just, at the price range we were looking at, upper twos to right around 300, we just couldn't grab what we wanted to grab. So we bowed out, got one here, and we love it. We played it smart. Okay, so you gotta think with your head, don't think with your heart. This is a business transaction. If you have questions about it from a business sense, remember, you're looking for a good house, place where it rents, you want margin, you want an exit strategy. Okay, keep those 4 things in mind. We'll talk to you more again in a couple weeks with episode 3. This is Steve, Malone Realty Group EXP. Take care.